Many years ago, when I first came to New York, what was the buzzword? What people were concerned? The Holocaust. Where was God during the Holocaust? Well, so I used to say, the person, if he can't upgrade his Mercedes to next year's edition, he had to go see his therapist. But what's bothering him about life is the Holocaust. You understand? He's born with a platinum spoon in his mouth, but his issue is the Holocaust, God and the Holocaust. That's his issue. What are you complaining about? This was only what we call an escape clause. When you're painted into a corner and you have no wiggle room and you have to accept God because it doesn't make sense any other way existence, you say, but what about the Holocaust? That's the escape clause. But it was only a way to evade being shackled by truth. Nobody wants to be, unless you're looking for truth, you don't want to be confronted with truth, because when you're confronted with truth, sometimes it's very painful. As we say in English, there's what we call a rude awakening. Nobody wants to have a rude awakening. And when you hit with truth, smack between the eyes, sometimes it's like it totally rattles you and dismantles you. And all of a sudden you're thrown from your high horse. As we used to say, once you come down from your high horse, you're too small for the breeches you're wearing. The truth hurts. Why does the truth hurt? If you're looking for truth, it should be very pleasurable. Thank God I didn't go off the cliff. The answer is because you're not interested in going there. King Solomon says in Mishlei, Tocheach leletz v'yisne'eko. When you rebuke, admonish, chastise a deprecator, he will hate you. When you rebuke a wise man, he will love you. Because what's the wise man? What is he looking for? He's wise. He wants to do things correctly, but we're not perfect. We have blind spots. It's inevitable. We're going to make mistakes. So whenever you're able to direct the wise man, who's looking only for wisdom, to do the right thing, he will love you. When you point out a failing, he will love you, because now he's going to make the correction. But the deprecator, all he's interested in himself. He has his own agenda. Anything which rattles his cage, he doesn't want to hear about. You're disrupting my life. You're overturning the apple cart. I've been hawking all this paraphernalia, which is illegal, contraband, and now you want to take it away from me. Take away my push cart. I have nowhere to sell it. In the illegal market, well, if that's where you want to be, then you got a problem. But if you want to be in the right lane, not in the wrong lane, and when you veer a little bit, and I direct you to be more in that lane, you're appreciative. So that's what King Solomon says. Tocheach letz v'yisne'eko. You deprecate, you admonish the deprecator, he will hate you. Therefore, it doesn't pay. Don't even go there. You're not going to have any positive response. The wise man, he will love you. I remember the professed atheist we spoke about many times. We sparred much, and there was no question I couldn't answer. There were many questions he couldn't answer. So finally, the last bullet in his gun was, what about the Holocaust? Okay? So what's the answer? There is no answer. Only God knows why the Holocaust came about. But even though we don't know why the Holocaust came about, why it happened then, because the things only God knows, But there is a perspective, and putting that perspective, it doesn't topple the apple cart. It's not a refutation of God, on God's mercy, even the Holocaust. Because it's the same question, tzaddik v'ralo. If he's a tzaddik, why is God turning the screws on him? Why is he making his life so difficult? It's a question. We don't have the answer. But we don't have the answer why this person was chosen to be the tzaddik who has a difficult time. That we don't understand. But conceptually, why you have to have tzaddik v'ralo, we understand. And why you have to have tzaddik v'tovlo, we're able to understand that. The actual application of the principle, that's the difficult. That only God knows. And once you have that perspective, although it's beyond our grasp, but it's within the realm of understanding, and therefore it's not a refutation on or difficult regarding on what our beliefs are founded upon truth. I'll give you an example. A person is born with some kind of physical deformity, and he needs multiple reconstructive surgeries that he should be able to function as a normal person, walk straight, stand straight, to be able to see correctly. And he has to undergo many, many operations. They're painful, recovery. Another person who's born healthy doesn't have to undergo that. He doesn't have to be distracted with that. And he's able to invest his focus in other things, to advance. Now, what is the value of all those surgeries? Those are all constructive surgeries, because he was born with these deformities. The other person wasn't born with the deformities. He doesn't need those surgeries and those therapies. He doesn't need that. What does he have to do? Now that he's not beleaguered with that, he has to invest his mind to advance education-wise, experience-wise, and have the ability, let's say, to help others. Because he has that clarity and that free time and that ability, because he's not weighted down with all these other issues. The other person, he has to deal with his issues. This person doesn't have to deal with this. He has different issues he has to address. Now that you're gifted and you have ability, use those gifts for what they're meant to be used. The other person's unfortunately can't. He has to be preoccupied with getting back to a normal state, a functional state. And we understand there are no two souls which are created alike. As we mentioned, every Jewish soul is part of a network called the Jewish people. The network at Sina had 600,000 components. There were 600,000 males above the age of 20. Each soul complemented the other soul. And each person's challenges, which gives value to our actions, is needed to perfect whatever's needed to perfect in that soul. And only God knows that. Because only God knows the makeup of our soul to know what it needs to achieve that level of perfection. It's like you go to a nutritionist. People have different issues, deficiencies. They need certain types of vitamins, nutritions, whatever it is. One has a deficiency in iron. He has to take iron. Another person has a deficiency in other things, other. One person's body produces too much of something else. So each person has a different chemistry. Based on that chemistry, that's the way you have to deal with that issue. Certain people, because they have naturally high blood pressure, they have to exercise. Strenuous exercise. Another person has normal blood pressure. He doesn't have to exercise at that same degree to maintain himself. Cholesterol issues, many issues. It depends on what your genetic makeup is. And that determines how you have to invest your life, what you have to occupy yourself with. Identically, in the spiritual realm, every soul has various levels of needs, attention, and infusions to achieve the level of perfection that it should be fully functional within the spiritual realm. And each soul has a very specific mandate based on what it needs to be able to achieve that level of perfection. Tzaddik viralo. It's the person's born with all the deformities. He needs endless surgeries. And only after going through all that, now he can walk a straight line, he can see clearly, and he speaks with articulation. The other person came naturally. He has other issues he has to address. He has to be educated, experienced, to be able to be an asset to society. He has a different purpose. Every soul has another approach how to achieve its perfection. Sometimes the challenge is poverty. The other person's challenge is arrogance because he's so wealthy. He's so gifted. Is he self-absorbed with himself? Is he pompous? The poor man, he has nothing to be pompous about. He's barely making ends meet. So therefore, conceptually, we understand it. Why there's such a thing as tzaddik viralo and tzaddik v'tovlo. Because each one needs a different level of experience to achieve the same achievement. It's called perfection. Well, we don't understand, but why A and not B? The answer is each one has a different soul, but why? Why was A given soul A, this type of soul, and that? That only God knows. We don't have all the answers, but the perspective of how to understand it, there is an approach. And if you understand that perspective, you have no questions. It's not fair. It's not fair you're putting through so many surgeries. If he wants to walk and he wants to function, and wants to see, you have no choice. And everybody agree. At the end, they'll say, he's a living miracle. From when he started to now, he's a living miracle. He's fully functional. He's going to be written down in medical history what was just achieved. It was just an article I read. There was a Palestinian child who was hit by a car, and he had his skull nearly severed from his spine. And in Israel, Hadassah Hospital, it's a medical feat. They reattached his skull to his body, and he has no handicaps. It did not interfere with his function. In a few more months, he was fully functional. It's unheard of. First time it was ever done. But he nearly had his head severed from his body. It was only attached through the brain stem to the spinal column. But the skull was basically severed from the body. Unbelievable. This person's go down, this Palestinian child, a medical miracle. First time. So understanding why things have to be why they have to be, we understand. Why they have to be the way they are, that's a different discussion. That you have to believe in God. And if you understand God is the all-knowing, and this is the principle, you have no question. You have no question. As we say very often, it's for the best. It's for the best. Yeah, a person loses $10 million and he goes into the poorhouse and he says, it's for the best. Sure, you could say it's for the best because you never had $10 million. But the morning had 10 million, now he's in the poorhouse. How can you tell me it's for the best? Well, you have to have faith. It's not so simple. You have to have trust. If you never had it, you didn't lose anything. But the person who now sleeps on the street before he slept in a mansion, for him, it's a challenge. But you realize if you really believe in God and trust him, it's in your best interest. What happens? When the person moves into your mansion, your creditor who actually dispossessed you from your home, and you're in the street, and all of a sudden, the home is hit with missiles and the home is destroyed with all its inhabitants. A month later, say, you know something, thank God I was sleeping on the street. If I would have been in that mansion, they aimed, it was targeted for total destruction. It was reduced to literally to powder. Thank God I wasn't in that mansion. Thank God I lost my wealth. Understand? Oh, now you understand the absolute Tova. I always say the Titanic. Person couldn't get tickets to go on the Titanic. And he was a man of means. He was ashamed to show his face publicly. Because the question is, why aren't you on the Titanic? And he was literally being consumed with envy. He could not tolerate it. If there would have been pharmacopsychiatry, he would have been drugged to the nth degree. They could only give him ether to put him out in those days. Only ether. And all of a sudden, he gets reports. The Titanic went down. All of a sudden, now we could show his face with pride. These guys who thought they were on top of the mountain, where are they? They were down 20 legions below the sea. Look where I am. I'm still making money. I'm still functioning. I still have a life to live. All of a sudden, in retrospect, thank God, it's for the best. I wasn't there. So a moment ago, you were so ashamed and pained and upset with God that you couldn't show your face in public. Your wife called you a nothing. You're a nobody. At least now she's not a widow. The other people, these people just went down with this submarine because they wanted to see the Titanic. You had to pay a fortune to go down there. Right? Okay. Did they ever come up? You know what it means to go down there. If you go down to come up, it's one thing. If you go down not to come up, you don't want to be there. Did these people even know where they were going? They had no idea where they're going. But they were written up because they'd afforded whatever was per passenger in this limited capsule, which submerged. But if you believe in God, it's not believing, you trust God, that everything's for the best. It's in my best interest not to have that. If there's trust, no problem. There's no trust, everything's a problem. So even what we don't understand, sometimes we get a glimpse later to see that we didn't understand, now we understand. Even when we understand, we fully don't understand it. Why did that guy get to make the mistake go down? Why did I go down? You know why? Because God wants you to be alive. The other person, he didn't want you. Well, why? I'm no more devout than he was. So why did God want him to end his life? Now, you don't have all the answers. We never have all the answers. But there's a perspective. And once you get the perspective and you have enough record to see exactly how God operates within existence, you have no questions. We never have all the answers, but all the answers aren't questions we know at you. Factually, we know we're finite, we're limited. We don't understand anything. As long as what we understand, we don't feel it's contradictory to what we believe, and we put in perspective, we're very good. Not a problem.